Good morning. Happy Saturday, July 31st, 2021, 8 a.m. Central Time. I hope you're all doing well. Good morning, Kerwin. Good morning, JH. See four of you out there. Hit that thumbs up button. Start putting your questions over in the comments. I do have a list of things that we're going to talk about here this morning. Last night was a very short night. My wife is sick, so um, she she actually didn't keep me awake. I kept myself awake. Good morning, CH. Good morning, Gibby. Everybody piling in, hitting that thumbs up button. I I've got a question for you, and I've been running into this. So, we create educational content. Morning, Jeremy. I help people for free. There are people that will submit for help that before we even talk about money, before we even talk about charging people, we will send them suggestions. Hey, did you try this? Hey, did you try that? Because maybe it's something that is out there on a popular forum post. Maybe it's something that's out there that's in a video. Morning, Joe with cajoling. Morning, Dave. Morning, James. And so, uh, we will try to put people to a resource before we offer that paid consulting. Now, if somebody comes and they said, watch this video a couple times and I want this done, then I will say, if you've gone through the video, then in the next steps and you can't figure it out, then that is covered by paid consulting. Is that something you want? A lot of times the people will say yes. Morning, David Morton. Was actually just thinking about you. And but there's a couple trades that are out there that seem to be, I don't know, mysterious. One of them I think could halfway become scamish. The other one, not so much, because one is definitely, I think, messing with something that is more dangerous than the other. Now, um, morning, is it Raymond or Ramon? Morning, Tony with Quick Tech. Three quarters of the quartet in the house. Morning, Michael. So I've been online. Well, let me back that up. When we first bought our house in 2019, we had somebody come out and take a look at the chimneys because the chimneys had never been inspected, and we wanted to know. We've got a gas burning fireplace upstairs and a wood burner downstairs, and we want to know, are these functional? Can we use them? And we had one place that wanted to uh, put inserts in and charge us a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. And so I went on part of a couple of homesteading groups and started asking questions and telling them what people said. And like one guy came in and he's like, "No, I'm a certified, uh, chimney inspector, and these guys are trying to sell you a bill of goods." So we waited a year till we had a little bit more money, and got a hold of another group. Actually, the guys that run the company, their grandmother was actually like my second or third grade teacher, so it's like small world, right? And they're just down the road, 40 miles or so. And so they show up, and for a third of what the other people wanted to charge, they're like, "No, you don't need inserts." And, they took care of everything, and now both chimneys are functional. They are, both, fireplaces are functional. They even replaced the chimney on the top of the house, and it was still a third of the price of what the other company wanted. And when you go online and you start asking questions about chimneys, and fireplaces, like there's not a lot of great resources for that, you know? So, that, that one, I think when you're dealing with, somebody having contained fire inside of their house, I do believe that that's very special. But I just had like, I was trying to like verify what this person was telling me, and I couldn't find that much about it. And so when I asked on that group, that's what kind of triggered this other guy to be like, whoop, hope, pump the brakes. These guys are trying to like take you for a ride. Cool. So the second one that I'm and that one I get, right? So like if I was going to start repairing chimneys, fireplaces, I would join. There's like an international guild of people who do that, right? But the other one that I find Very interesting. Morning, TVJ. Sean says chimney scams. Been there. Morning, Sean. Odie. Yeah, David. Where I'm from, down the road is just 40 miles. So, and that's how we measure everything is in distance, not in time, and we use landmarks and things like that. Anyway, so the second one is garage doors, right? So, I know nothing about garage doors. Uh, the electronics, like getting the garage door opener to work, that's more my lane. Morning, T and Bighorn, and so I took some pictures because the garage door opener arm was actually bolted to a strut, a top strut, and the strut has now split, and one of the screws has come out, and like the garage door itself, where the screw came out, that part's never exposed to the weather or anything, but I need to fix it today. And because my son, our accessible ramp is inside the garage, right? So it becomes an accessibility and a safety issue for him. So it is getting fixed ASAP. So once again, I start searching around, like, unless you know their vernacular or like somebody, limited information. Now you can find YouTube videos on how to install, but like when you start having like specific questions, like I had, like detailed questions, it was very difficult to find anything. So I took some pictures, I posted in a couple of groups on Facebook, and there's 50-50. So 50% of the people are like, nope, call a garage door person. And then 50% of the people are providing a solution. The last comment this morning was like, garage doors can kill, call a professional. I understand that. There's high tension springs, the doors are very heavy, and I understand that. But what I wasn't asking to be referred to a professional. I was asking, how can I take this J arm and attach it back to the door temporarily until I can budget to buy a new door, a new setup, because I'm assuming that's not cheap. And I can't just, unless the door was completely broken, then we could rearrange some emergency funds and things like that. But I'm not just like tomorrow, oh, hey, if I can, fix this thing until next year when we can budget for it appropriately. So it's very interesting to me that I had, the one guy that first answered me, he like gave me just enough detail where like if you're mechanically inclined, you can probably figure it out. But then he's like, you know what, where are you at? I'll have a professional get in touch with you. Appreciate your help, but I didn't ask for a professional to reach out. I just want to know, like, so then there was another dude um out on YouTube who had a similar thing, and this guy he was like, look, I don't want to repair garage doors. I just want to oil paint and fly fish and take lots of naps, right? So what he did was kind of interesting, the way he did it, and I started thinking about that, and I'm like, well, I think it's probably safer if you have something that has screws that go in. So I got to run to Home Depot this morning, and I think there's like a universal piece that I can get for this. That or this other guy took construction adhesive and had some very specific measurements for a piece of half-inch plywood and bonded the plywood to the door. And then, I mean, and some of you are probably cringing at that, but um, it's it's very very interesting. So that's kind of my have any of you ever run into these? Sean had said he ran into chimney scams. Has anybody else run into and you know what? If you look at scams where people have had their money taken, it's funny, like physically, like garage doors seem to be up there on the list. So have any of you ever run into that issue? JH. So the mounting point, they mounted it to the strut. But that top strut is very close to the first panel, and being able to adjust that arm, I if I put something on that first panel, it would not be a big deal to move that J arm to hook into that. Yeah, TVJ. Sometimes we do if it's closer, we'll use minutes. Yeah, like 5 minutes down the road, stuff like that. Gibby says on the GWN 7602, is there a mounting plate? Because it looks like there could be. Look on the back. So the 7602, that's the correct me if I'm wrong, that's I've been dealing with so many model numbers for things. It's budget season, right? So the 7602, that is the one with a 4-port switch built in, right? Morning, Danny. TN Bighorn says the biggest scam down here in Tennessee seems to be the "I've got some extra asphalt to do your driveway with" scam. That's interesting. Hurricane windows. So, David Morton, it's interesting that you talk about HVAC geothermal guys, because when we first moved into the house, um, well, before we moved in, the inspector went through and some wiring had to be fixed. And the previous owner had somebody fix the wiring, something wasn't right, HVAC wasn't running properly. So we had a company come out. They're like, you need to do this, this, and this. You should probably replace your whole unit, blah, blah, blah. My wife wrote a check to him. We started having another issue. Had a guy that I work with that does HVAC on the side, who's licensed, insured, and all that stuff, come out, and he's like, uh, he fixed it for like, and his billable rate's the same as this other company, but he fixed what was going on like for a fraction of the cost. Told us what it would really cost to replace the system. Should we replace the system? And then we had problems with the heat, and he had an extra control board. Our furnace is a good one, and he's like, we can just keep throwing parts at this thing. You don't need to necessarily replace the whole thing. So he was, kind of upfront about it, gave us the pros and cons about that. And he had an extra control board that he had pulled out of another system, matched the control board that we have, fixed the heat, and then didn't want to let me pay him for the control board. And I was like, no, 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 no. We got to pay you for your time and your control board, because that's another thing. Like if it's like a simple sensor, like having to clean the flame sensor or something like that, I can do it, right? But I'm not formally trained on HVAC. I have no intention on getting formally trained. Uh, those folks understand their craft, but yeah, I do think you got to watch out. I do think you got to watch out for some of those folks. Let's see. Yeah. So, um, interesting. TM Bighorn. You'll have to let me know what that's all about. Morning, Ryan. So, um, Gibby, back to your question about the 7602. So, we first saw that 7602 in Mexico in 2019, and they were pushing it towards hospitality. And the first thing that I said is, you got to have a way to securely mount this. Otherwise, these things are going to escape hotel rooms very quickly. And there is supposed to be a security mount for those. However, I have not seen them. So I would love to see I would love to see a security mount for those, so that you could use them next to like a set top box. Um, but I don't want those APs just sitting there, and I don't want to have to hide it necessarily. So yeah, we need them to release the secure mounting bracket that they said is coming for that. Michael Berg says the Edge Router X is back in stock. Let's verify that. Yeah, trust but verify, right? Let's see. I'm assuming that's at the UI store. So I'm going to pull up the UI store. Wired products under ISP operator. And indeed, the Edge Router X is back in stock for $59. Looks like lots of stuff is back in stock. Let's see. Looking at the Protect stuff. I wanted to test the G3 Instant, but it is sold out. Oh, so let's talk about this. I had a customer from Brazil email me. JH, I have been involved with some Arista stuff. I have briefly touched it. I have not done full blown deployments by myself. I am familiar with it. So, but if anybody's got any Arista switches laying around that they want to sell, let me know. Yeah, Tony, there's a lot of stuff in stock right now on the UI store. Um, and some of the early access stuff that I need to get my hands on is also back in stock. So I had to make an order. But um, so this customer from Brazil emails me and he's like, I bought this device on eBay. You have to hook it to an RPS. I can't get it to boot. I'm going to return it. I paid $179 for it and sent me pictures. And it is a product that I have never seen in my life. I've never heard of it. I've never seen any FCC ID stuff for it. So I started talking to my contact over at Ubiquity and sent the pictures and stuff over to him. And he's like, we haven't even talked about this product internally. So somehow something got leaked onto eBay. And I almost thought about offering to buy it and have him send it here. Um, so that I could have it. But I'm getting a message. Let me know if the stream is still going. It says your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try reconnecting. Have to let me know in the comments here whether you can still see the stream. Okay, you can see and hear me. Okay. All right. So, next thing on the list is you're going to see a video here pretty soon of a good morning, Tim. You're going to see a video here pretty soon. Tony, correct me in the comments, but yeah. So Tony just says that he's going to reach out to Jeremy. He's going to reach out to a few other folks, and we're going to do a joint video. And I'm assuming, and Tony, this is where I need you to correct me, that it's going to be published on all of our channels, where we're all going to do like this group video. And Tony's going to edit it, and it's about Synology DSM-7 and our favorite features. So we're going to send all the footage to Tony. Tony is going to edit the video down, and then I believe we are going to. Um, I believe that we're going to all publish those. Ryan, don't. Okay, I don't know what your objective is with the UDM Pro. However, since Ubiquity themselves released a video on the UDM Pro SE, I feel free to comment on that. I'm not reviewing the product, but if you were going to buy a UDM Pro, spend the extra money and buy the UDM Pro SE, which is that special edition, which includes uh, PoE, which, in my opinion, the Dream Machine Pro should have had from the beginning, especially since it runs, you know, talk and access. And actually, the funny part about it is even the PoE that it has is not PoE plus or plus plus. It's just standard PoE, so you can't even and it's not even you can't power some of those higher end devices with it. It's also got 128 gigs of built-in storage. So do yourself a favor if you were looking at that. And if I had just purchased my UDM Pro in the last couple of weeks, I would be not happy. TVJ, Arista, they're like Juniper, you know, like that high end gear is very sought after. It's very stable. It's my understanding that a lot of the casino industry, because they have to have low latency and stuff like that, and a lot of security and just solid switches, a lot of those places use Arista. Could be wrong about that. So Aruba's got some decent switches. Um, Adtran's got decent switches. Juniper is good stuff. But I might I might hit up eBay and talk about that. The next thing that you're going to see, or one of the things you're going to see at some point this year, I'm going to record the video. I don't know when it's going to get published, but I've had some call for IP version 6 on the edge routers, and there's not a lot of good information out there if you're an ISP on how to configure that. So I am gonna I'm configuring it for a customer. Probably going to configure it late one night next week, and I'm going to record that. And of course, I'll have to obscure IPs and things like that and certain things. But there's not a lot of good information for ISPs out there if you're getting started. So that is coming. And if you've ever done it, you know that it's if you just want to do DHCP and you're getting IP version 6 from your ISP, there's instructions out there everywhere. But if you're actually the ISP and you're distributing IP version 6, there's no good instructions out there. Sean says, Willie, what is your recommendation for switches with cloud control if Ubiquity is out of stock until November, December? I've been looking into Aruba, Meraki, etc. recently. So Cisco sent me one of their new, and somebody's like, oh, that's just a Linksys switch. And it's really not. So they've got a new small business line. And I just, if you just browse, you don't have to subscribe to my TikTok, but just browse over there and you'll see where I talk about the switch a little bit. I put it in the rack. These switches were actually um, just introduced in May of this year. So it's a little bit of a different line. So we're going to look at those. TP-Link has fixed some of the capacitor problems that they used to have. So TP-Link is a viable alternative depending on what you're doing. Juniper has the Mist system where Juniper switches can be cloud controlled. So it depends. Yeah, Cambium switches. We're gonna do some videos. So I need somebody to be like, I need somebody else that's like, okay, let's do this video. Like, I've got so many videos that I gotta get done. Yeah, Mist from Juniper. JH, what is the name of the virtual assistant that's in Mist? I can't remember, but it's the AI thing. JH, let me know. Does TP-Link do 25 gig on any device? Off the top of my head, I can't tell you that. However, MikroTik does. MikroTik, however you pronounce it. We all know what you're talking about. Uh, it's rumored that they've got some like 100 gig stuff coming, but they've got 25 and 40 gig. So you could look at MikroTik. It depends what feature set that you need as well. Depends which feature set you want. Marvis, that is the AI. Sean, you should have a cookie today. Marvis is the AI, and but you should if you get 15 minutes and you want to learn a little bit more about Juniper and Mist. So Juniper actually acquired Mist, and now they've rolled this Marvis AI into where you can use it with their switches and stuff, and it's pretty interesting. And Mist does SD-WAN, so it's definitely interesting, and I'm starting to see more and more people um, deploy Mist APs. So I sat through one of their things, and apparently I don't know what triggered. I didn't get my free AP, so somehow I didn't qualify. But oh, JH says the SRX series. So that's one thing too. Like Juniper's offerings are so they're fantastic. And now that they've got the early hour failure thing out of the way on the switches, I can recommend the switches. So the SRX line that JH is referring to, that is like their firewall line, and you have to be careful when you are selecting um, whether you need because their firewalls can route, and you can get different cards to put in the SRX box, right? So you can get a T1 card to put in the SRX box. However, you cannot disable SIP ALGs or voice ALGs in the SRX box. So if you've got voice, it can cause, depending on how your deployment is set up, I've seen it cause issues. And in fact, we ended up on the phone call with the North American vice president at the time, and whoever designed it should have put J series routers in at the time. Now this has been years ago, a few years ago, about 10 years ago. and um, they chose the SRX series when it should have been the J series. So there was some, and Juniper made it fully right. You know, they paid 100% to have J series routers put in. It was very nice. I mean, they once we all figured out what was going on, and I mean, we were on the phone with they brought a guy down from Chicago, and that dude was awesome. And we were on the phone with engineers like at midnight. I mean, like it was a deal. And then they figured out like, oh, yeah, the way your network is set up, the pre-sales engineer should have never designed it this way. And then Juniper made it right. All right. So I was looking for something fun to do with the kids. And I don't know if you've seen this. I don't know if I'm jumping on a bandwagon or if I'm after the curve or what's going on. Yeah, Tim. I mean, it was tens of thousands of dollars worth of gear that they ate on that. It was, I mean, had their switches not had the early hour flash failure problem, probably would still be running Juniper switches there. But anyway, so I don't know if I'm on like the hind end of this, if I'm where I'm at. I'm not usually like a bandwagon type person. But have you seen these folks that will use like 1,000-pound pole magnets and they like throw them out in the water and they like fish with it? So I thought that'd be kind of cool. So I ordered a kit off of Amazon, and I'm gonna take the kids out when it shows up, and we're gonna throw it in and see if we can catch anything. I just think that that'd be super fun and interesting. Do any of you do that? It comes with a grappling hook that can lift like 200 pounds. Um, and it comes with the magnet that's got like I think the one that I've got is like 1,200. It's rated for like 1,200 pounds, and it's got two different mounts, so you can mount it flat or you can mount it on the side. Comes with gloves, 100 foot of rope, storage case, all that stuff. And it was really inexpensive. I'll have to check Harbor Freight and see what they've got. I could probably put a kit together a lot cheaper, but I mean, this thing, it was like 35 bucks for this kit. So I was actually pretty happy with that. Does anybody do anything like that? I mean, I just thought it sounded fun, sounded like a good way to spend some time with the family. Um, all right. So here's a funny thing that Joe, Joe with cajoling, if you're listening, this is for you. So a couple years ago, when my wife wanted a new refrigerator, we bought the Samsung Family Hub. And if you've never seen the Samsung Family Hub, it's got a tablet built into the one door. Here's my one gripe with it. Is that if I'm getting water out of the water dispenser and my wife opens the right door, or my kid opens the right door, like the water stops. I'm sure there's some sort of a reason for it, but it's the right door. I don't know. Maybe they think I can't figure that out. Maybe a software update will fix that. I don't know. Maybe I should try it since the new software update. However, this refrigerator, the back end for it keeps getting they keep adding. I don't want to say smarter and smarter, right? Because the refrigerator itself can only be as smart as the code that's running on it, right? So it's not that the refrigerator itself is becoming sentient because it has to attach to a cloud service. However, we updated to the latest version of the software. It now makes food meal suggestions based on what it sees in the refrigerator. So that's freaky. It can now identify what's in there, and I believe I could be wrong about this, but it can actually look for expiration dates. Used to be you had to enter that manually, but I think their camera vision is getting much better. But then there are two things they added to this latest update. The first one is um, Amazon at one time had these buttons that you could buy, and you could order them already pre-programmed for like Tide, garbage bags, like all these things. And when you were getting low on product, you literally push this button, Amazon reordered the stuff, delivered it to you. You didn't have to do anything but push the button, and your stuff showed up at your door. Well, they've got those virtual buttons now on there because I believe Amazon killed those physical buttons. Joe with cajoling, what were the name of those buttons? Um, and the other thing that they have added is Alexa in the is now in the refrigerator, and my wife is not thrilled about that. I'm still kind of indifferent about it. I haven't messed with a lot of the settings yet. I had to spend an hour sitting down and doing it. However, I have to wonder how much of the tablet that is inside. So it's weird, right? So Samsung has their own Bixby uh, AI assistant or whatever it is, and then you've got Alexa. So this thing has Bixby and Alexa, but then it also has a Ring app built in. So if you've got Ring cameras, you can display Ring right on your refrigerator. I'm trying to figure out if this is like a conglomeration of the companies or if they're just like sharing the files or Amazon Dash. Thank you, Bob Carpenter, and good morning. And thank you for the coffee. The post office, you sent that to me right before I went on vacation. Didn't have a chance to get it. The post office almost sent that coffee back. Thank you for the coffee. We always appreciate that. Bob Carpenter is amazing at picking out coffee. But I'm trying to figure out how this whole thing works. I don't think we're going to lift the moratorium on the smart assistants. And for those of you who may have had devices listening, I forgot about that. Sorry about that. Um, but um, I don't, I don't think that's going to get the moratorium lifted. I don't know. It would have to take something pretty special that it could do to lift that moratorium. So yes, Dash. Oh, sorry, Ron Smith also had that. Yeah, Amazon Dash. So yeah, and the refrigerator has a 10-year warranty. That's good, because it's got a lot of electronics in it. We did have to use the warranty once. We did have an issue with it freezing up, and Samsung absolutely asked no questions. They sent a local company out. He replaced the parts. I mean, literally no questions asked. They just did it. So I was pretty happy with that. Um, if you have one of these refrigerators, instead of replacing parts, sometimes you can run a defrost. However, they have hidden the defrost from the end user because they want a service tech to take a look at it. I'll just tell you that if you do a little bit of Googling, you can find the service manual with the codes in it and you can do it yourself. It has, Tim, it has a ton of features. Maybe I'll do a video overview on the refrigerator. Yeah. So we definitely limit smart devices in our house. Something funny is occasionally, like if we're driving, we're on a road trip or something, I'll turn OK Google on my phone. I need to turn it off. Um, and Android Auto lets you use voice commands while you're driving. So if you plug this into my wife's van and her phone, which is a Samsung, it has Android Auto, so it lets you do a lot of things with your voice and things like that. But with my wife being sick this week, her voice has been kind of gravelly. The phone with her voice being gravelly, it can't tell so people who were worried about AI taking over the world, it can't differentiate between her voice and mine when her voice is gravelly. So that either means that I have a very high pitched voice or she has a low pitched voice, whatever it is. But it's definitely interesting. So yes, we definitely limit the smart devices in the house. Ryan says Samsung electronics and appliances are two very different entities. Feel like if it had Bixby and Alexa, the electronics division wouldn't care. Tim W says hit that like button. Yes, hit that like button. Ryan Sharp says, are you going to solar your house? So that's an interesting question, Ryan. And we have been thinking about it. The electrician that I know has been trying to get me to do it. Says we have the perfect yard for it. Um, but said he wouldn't. With some of the other groups that are out there, he wouldn't put it on the roof because we have enough yard. Um, that's a conversation that we're still having. Bob says I triggered his smart clock. That's hilarious. No, Bob, I specifically did train this. I did specifically train the phone. JH says, I can't solar in my state. They make you pay to have them installed and in use. You have to be 100% off the grid or not have them. That's messed up right there. Which state are you in, JH? All right, one other thing. Are the trees in the back a problem? No. The trees on the side might be. Alabama, you either have to be off grid. That's crazy. What's the rules about wind turbines down there? Or is this all alternative energy, JH? That's hilarious. TN Bighorn says, I renamed our at home to computer. And now every time we watch an episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation, mine goes nuts. That's hilarious. David says, I'm hoping for Tesla solar shingles to bring back slate looking shingles. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on there. A lot of things to unpack there. Interesting. So I actually had somebody come out, excuse me, inventory all the trees on our property. I have a 35-page write-up with pictures about all of our trees. Should they exist? Should they not exist? And then this gentleman also looked at our front yard, and we were talking about retirement plans. And he believes that we could get quite a few black walnut trees in the front yard. And so if you know what those are worth, at some point, it probably wouldn't pay off for me, but it could pay off for the kids. So thinking about doing that. Neighbors would hate me probably, but you know. Dave Robertson says, any word on Grandstream switches? Excuse me. Good Lord. No, not yet. The chip shortage kind of threw that off. My contact says I will be one of the first to know when those switches do hit because I've been pushing so hard for those. Here's that Wi-Fi 6 AP. I'm going to do a quick intro video on this week, and we are going to use a TP-Link switch that one they sent me that's 2.5 gig PoE plus or plus. Got to do a video on that too, but we're going to use that to power our Wi-Fi 6 APs. So Ryan Sharp says, how do I get to the sunflower field? So you're going to go down to 150. You are going to take a right. You're going to head towards Galesburg. You're going to go past the Jubilee State Park entrance. So you'll go down that little dip. You'll go around that other little curve. And then you're going to take a right on $1,000. And you're going to go back about 2 or 3 minutes. And you'll go over a little bridge. And then on both sides, the sunflower fields are on both sides. You need to hurry. They've had some issues with kids out there tearing them up. And it probably shouldn't be too much longer. They'll probably be wilting and won't be any good for pictures. You did citrus trees over nut trees. I'm not sure. So with the black walnut, the wood, once the trees get so tall, I guess the trees are worth a lot of money for the wood. So, I I don't know yet. Bob Carpenter says, asking you and the Brain Trust, what handsets would you pair with a Grandstream for the best? Okay, so in my current mindset, WAF is Web Application Firewall, which is not what you mean, Bob. Spell that out for me, please. There's too many damn acronyms in IT. And if you're in IT, you know exactly that is a correct statement. That there are too many acronyms that overlap too. Fanville phones are okay. They're decent. So we've got a couple. Wife acceptance factor, most important, 101%. So I usually deploy the GXP 2170s, and the reason that I keep everything Grandstream when it's up to me is because zero config. So a lot of times my kids will help me set up large systems, right? So it's not uncommon for us to get a 100 plus handset system. In fact, we have a meeting Monday with a resort in Texas, 681 handsets, right? So it's not uncommon for us to do 100 plus handset setups. So um, we will set up zero config so that we literally just plug a phone in. It pushes all the policies, wallpapers, updates the firmware, and pushes an extension automatically. And to make any changes, you don't you should never have to log into a phone. You can do everything right through the PBX, hit the zero config button, and everything should update. The GRP line is also excellent. However, if you are on the GRP line and you are using and you've changed the wallpaper, here's one thing that we found out through trial and error that was actually not in any documentation is that when you're creating wallpaper. So if you look, I wish I had a GRP phone here next to me. But if you look at a GRP phone on the LCD screen at the top and the bottom, there are rows of pixels, and I can't remember how many it is. Those pixels, even though they are live pixels, they are excluded from the size of the wallpaper. So the size of the wallpaper are all of the pixels in between those two lines at the top and the bottom. Learn that one the hard way, and that is not in the documentation. The WP820 Bob Carpenter is what I would suggest. It is not Unky Joe's house, but Unky Joe, I may be reaching out for swimming pool uh, questions. I got to go back around the circle with the county here. If my neighbors were just a little further away on each side, I wouldn't have to worry about it. But I got to go back through the county, make sure we're getting the proper permits, making sure I can put the swimming pool where we want to put the swimming pool, put the hot tub where we want to put the hot tub. We are going to make the investment here instead of traveling for vacation next year. Now, this is the plan. We're going to do staycations. We'll put a pool heater in so we can swim earlier in the season, swim later in the season, and then we'll have the hot tub. I've got to figure out all the fence requirements and things like that. So, um, Sean says, "Are you able to control the DND feature on handsets?" I'm not sure what you mean by control it. So with the Grandstream phones, there's a physical do not disturb button. So that's hilarious. JH says permits. What's that? We don't have that down here. So what so like there are certain rules here and where like your fence can't go past, certain types of fence can't go past the front of your neighbor's house, and we can't be so close to trees, and there's all kinds of rules. So I got to figure out if I got a couple of and my wife may not actually be sad if we do have to take down a few of the trees, because right now we can have, but they won't produce fruit. Apple trees, because the trees there, they have like the disease, and it gets on the apple trees and it ruins the apple trees. So if those had to come down, she may not be upset, but they are really nice shade trees right now. Um, yeah, the WP series of phones is fantastic. Tony says, Lisa and I love our hot tub. Have had one our entire married life. Still use it 3 to 4 times a week. Yeah. So that is kind of the plan. Um, would be to use the hot tub most of the time, and then I'll actually pay somebody to probably come out the first year and teach me exactly how to winterize the pool. Unky Joe learned the hard way. Um, but we'll have somebody come out and show us once. Probably have somebody come out and manage. There's actually a Linux-based project that can manage your chemicals automatically. I don't know how I feel about that at the moment. I don't know anybody personally that's done it, so I'll probably pay somebody. It's very inexpensive to have somebody come take care of your chemicals here. I mean, it's like $25 a month. So JH says, "Yep, I built everything." So he's in Alabama, short of a house without a permit. Roller coasters didn't even need a permit. That's funny. TN Bighorn says, "For the last couple of weeks here in Tennessee, we didn't need a hot tub. All we needed was a bucket of water and 15 seconds in the sun." Yeah, it was warm when we were down there. Get a dry sauna up that far north. We've looked at saunas. David Morton says, "Oh man, I got sick from a poorly maintained hot tub and thought I had COVID." Yeah, so that's why we want to maintain those things correctly, and we're gonna have rules, because we got kids, right? So, and obviously your kids have friends and they want to come over and blah blah blah. There's gonna be rules in place for these kinds of things. Unky Joe, thank you for the information. Sean says, "Yes, we've had the issue with end users on the handsets turning on Do Not Disturb, and people haven't been happy with their employees having that feature." That's interesting. What I would suggest that you do for something like that is you go out to forum.grandstream, it's forums.grandstream.com, and ask if there's a P code. Now, they are moving away from P codes, so P codes allow you to do extra programming that may or may not be in the UI. That's one thing I've never asked about is disabling the Do Not Disturb button. I don't know why you couldn't, but you'll want to go out and ask that for sure. It wouldn't be Sean, it wouldn't necessarily be the PBX that has control, that the handset itself is going to have control of that button, because whether or not I'm connected to a PBX, because that button does dual feature, right? It's something that's on the phone itself. So you're going to have to see if there's a P code you can push to that to disable it, or if there's something in the UI. It's interesting that employers would want the do not disturb. I love do not disturb, especially around budget season, because um, we get so many solicitations from salespeople. It's nice to be able to just get things done. That D&D definitely helps that. All right, so sort of my one of these things I wanted to talk about here is I had been working on a training for a few months now, and I wanted to be short and sweet. Well, I got the kick in the rear that I needed to finish it up. So I'm going to do a video on it, and I'm going to put some disclaimers at the beginning. So basically, I'm going to open source this training and give it away. I'm going to travel around, local places that want to talk about fraud and scams and things like that. But I've created a training. It's 10 PowerPoint slides, because there's a lot of talking, but it's got a lot of high impact graphics and things like that. And it's called, "I've been trying to reach you about your vehicle's extended warranty and other scams." So I'm going to lay that down on video, maybe tonight, possibly tomorrow. I'm going to release it. I'll put my slide deck out there so that everybody can take that, because there's so many scams happening that I feel is a responsibility to educate people. We're growing up, we're still growing up, but we're growing up in a different time than our grandparents and our parents and things like that. And so I am going to put that out there, and it's 10 slides. It's very kind of to the point. So you'll see that, and I'll want feedback on that. And like I said, I'm going to provide the slide deck if people want to take it, they want to change it. I got free pictures uh from a place that Tony told me about. So, the last slide is like all the sources, and like I borrowed the PowerPoint template itself from a free place, but then put all my information in there. So I'm really happy about it, and I really hope that gains some traction, and people want to invite us to come talk about that. And think the first few times, and I tell you in the training, nothing is ever free, right? So when you come to the training, you're using your time to come to the training. My time is not free. If I have to pay to rent someplace, it's not free. And certainly those people who got scammed that um, initiated me creating this training, they definitely did not have free resources to throw at that scam. So JH, that is exactly how I do my certification exam. So like I've been dragging my feet on my CWNA. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm just going to have to break out the voucher. I'm going to have to put a date on the calendar, and that will force me to then study into the exam. Is that your JNCIA Junos or your JNCIA EX switching test? I was a JNCIA Junos, and I had the enterprise switching certification at one point. All right. Anybody else has questions on? No comments on the fraud training, the scam training. That's interesting. So does budget season like deer season and you hunt accountants? That's hilarious. Somehow they know. Somehow they know. So yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and they're like, "You let your CCNA lapse?" And I'm like, "Well, we don't really push Cisco, and like just because I don't have the certification doesn't mean that like once that cert lapsed, that all that stuff just kind of like falls out of your head." Um, and so it became this conversation, almost a bet. Like, do you think you could just walk in, schedule this CCNA, and go pass it? The question that I don't know because I haven't looked at the exam objectives, but it would be definitely interesting to see. 60DB says I run a similar training here in the UK, and I have been disconnected from chat. I must have a really poor connection. It's been raining, storming, so ISP must be having problems. But I am going to go ahead and I am going to wrap it up for this morning. So I want to thank you all for being here. If you need IT consulting, make sure you go to williehow.com, fill out that contact form. I want to thank you all for being here once again. Really, I do, because you all are awesome and you're what keeps this channel going. So, look out for that video Grandstream training. Real quick, I want to talk about that since I've got everybody. Don't leave yet. If you're interested in the Grandstream training, there are a lot of unknowns at the moment. And so I am looking to see what is going to happen, if they're going to restrict travel or what. We're not going to get political here. Um, there's a lot of things happening here with the big C and things like that. So I towards the end of September is the goal for that, Dave. I know that seems to be moving, but there's a lot of things to unpack, a lot of things that we got to figure out. Like Illinois, I live in Illinois, right? So there are going to be restrictions and things like that. Um, Dave, shoot me an email. We can talk more about this, because we need to get this done, because there are no other Grandstream certified trainers in the States at this point that I know that have scheduled live training either, but it needs to happen. So that being said, if you're interested in the Grandstream training, let me know. Go to my website, fill out the contact form, and say you're interested in training. If I get 10 people who are interested in that training today, just off of this, then we'll figure something out. So I could name 5 of you off the top of my head that were definitely interested in that. So go fill out that contact form, like I said, and I'll throw a thing up on YouTube and Twitter a little bit later. But once again, thank you all for being here. I'm Willie, and as always, I will see you in the next video.